Welcome to the docket presented by Defense Diaries. I'm your host, Bob Mata, and I'm joined by my beautiful, brilliant co-host, Allie. What's up, girl?
Hey, babe. Hi, all.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Long day with Jay and I. And for those of you who may be joining us that are not familiar, we are going to be doing nightly trial recaps with Allie and I. I figure it's important to have the smart one of the two of us go through the law with y'all and get her insight into what she saw on a nightly basis. We're going to try to keep it in the 45 minute to an hour range. But if you're not familiar with the case, we're covering Karen Reed, who is currently on trial for the murder of a former Boston cop named John O'Keefe. This happened back in 2022, January 28th into the mornings of the 29th. There are two competing theories in this trial. The state is alleging that Karen Reed ran into John O'Keefe, and for the murder charge, it has to be intentionally killing him. They also have the option on the table for the jury for a manslaughter charge for driving under the influence, or I think they call it OUI, maybe in Massachusetts, which would not require the intent element. The defense is saying that this is a cover-up, that something happened inside the house, that there were many guests that were at the bar that John and Karen were at preceding the drop-off at 34 Fairview, which is owned by one of the partygoers who was also at the Waterfall Bar. The defense is saying John O'Keefe went in there, something happened, and he was left for dead on the front lawn. So now we're at trial. Now we're hearing the evidence. We've heard all the noise from both sides of this. Now we're getting the facts. Now we're getting the evidence. And today was an interesting day in terms of the testimony. And I say interesting, kind of tongue in cheek. The first half, very slow. It was a slow day, but a necessary evil for the Commonwealth. It was a day of laying foundation and entering evidence in and they have to do it. It's like no one wants to sit through it, but they've got to get the foundational stuff in there in order to get it moved into evidence, which we saw a lot of today. And I know, Allie, you spent some time going through the first couple of witnesses, and I obviously am pretty familiar with what went on with Buhkinek, who was the sergeant who took the stand after we had the two forensic ladies up. So what do you think you want to go through with our first witness?
So I want to first tell everybody that we're going to get better at this because apparently you cannot timestamp a live stream until it's done because the time keeps changing. So, and we're doing this a little bit earlier than we probably will at other times. So my notes have become somewhat useless, but I know, Bob, we're super excited for, I'm not going to say the guy's name. What's his actual name?
Buhkinek, or some version of Buhkinek.
Buhkinek.
The chat will take care of his nickname, I'm sure.
Okay. Whoops. Can you hear me?
Not as well as I could 10 seconds ago.
Hold on.
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay.
What'd you mess with?
I didn't have my headphones, like they're on my head, but they weren't.
Oh.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the first witness, who you guys already are familiar with because this is the continuation of her testimony. And I'm going to start just kind of going through some of the stuff that she said instead of playing it. But she talked about, basically, she analyzed all the pieces of plastic, apparent plastic, clear, black, and red apparent plastic. Some of this plastic came from debris on John O'Keefe's clothing, and others came from the scene. So she starts out by talking about the pieces that fit together in what they're calling the tailgate housing unit. And she just defined what a mechanical fit is. And she said, when things break, they break in a unique pattern. It's different every time. So a mechanical fit is bringing two things with broken edges together to see if they were originally part of the same item. If the broken edges align, and if they do, that's a mechanical fit. So then she starts to go through.
Wait, let me interrupt you. So we have to give the name of the witness.
Oh, it's Ashley
Vallier, I think. Vallier.
Yes.
And she works for the Massachusetts State Police. And she is definitely one of their forensic scientists. They put up a couple of forensic scientists in a row. And just in case you're not following the trial very adamantly or with great frequency, she started yesterday, and she continued through, not yesterday, but the last day we were on trial, which I believe was Monday. So she started then, and she's continuing now. And sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that we gave the people the name of the witness.
Yes. And now I'm trying to remember. Oh, here we go. Okay, wait. Okay. So now in this part, she's going through.
Make it full screen, babe.
It is on my end. So
Really?
I mean, I can make it full screen, like where I can't see any of my screen.
You have to make it full screen.
Okay.
Or I'll put mine up.
Did I just do it?
No. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good.
So at this part, she's going to go through all of the items that with matches amongst them. So let's start here.
Pieces together as well, is that correct?
I believe so.
And were there any 3 pieces in total from 7-5, so A, B, and C, is that correct as well?
May I look at my notes? Yes.
And what, if any, match did you find with items within item 7-5?
There were no mechanical fits amongst those 3 items, or 3 pieces of the item.
And with reference to item 7-6, there were 2 pieces, A and B, within that, is that correct?
May I? Okay. Yes.
And were there any physical matches within those 2 pieces of item 7-6?
No.
Now, turning your attention to item 7-8, to recall how many pieces were contained within that?
If I may look at my.
She kept looking back.
There were 14 pieces.
Judge.
And of those 14 pieces, they were each compared to each other, is that correct?
Correct.
And what, if any, mechanical fit did you find between the pieces contained within 7-8?
So pieces C and D were found to fit together mechanically, and then pieces E and F were found to fit together mechanically.
Why does it sound echoey to me? It sounds, I know you sped it up, but it sounds like there's like a bit of an echo.
I don't know if it's because of something on my end. Like I can't hear this through my headphones. So maybe that is why. Like I'm here when this is playing, it's not playing through my headphones. Should I take my headphones off?
Yeah. You don't need them on. I mean, I don't wear headphones. If I'm down there, I do. You don't really need them. Plus it covers your beautiful hair. Like you just should get rid of the headphones. Plus you won't wear the cool white ones I bought you. You just insist on wearing those black ones, which is so disappointing. Got you some like baller white headphones that look amazing. All right, let's go. We got to roll because I got to be on with STS at 8. Like I've got limited time. There's no time for my nonsense, my tomfoolery, my shenanigans. Can you even hear me? I feel like she's not hearing a word that I'm saying. Take the headphones off. Like you got to, it's a, did you toggle it? Like, do you even have do you have the blue switch turned on and the focus right? Like, are you going through it? Exactly. I do have to go flirt with Carm. We can't hear you at all. Can't hear you. All right. So you guys think I'm bad with tech? Allison's next level bad. Can't hear you. Because I can actually operate my setup down there. All right. Just do whatever you can to get your mic back on, and let's just forget about the echo. Let's just keep moving. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Yeah. Super noise canceling, like all noise. Nope. Nope. We can't, there's no hearing you. Wow. All right. So now I can't control the screen either. So yeah, I'm the problem on this one. I mean, I'm usually the problem. She's definitely the problem on this one. I don't know if I should just pull up while she's trying to figure it out. Or maybe what I should do is have her come up here. Okay. What was that? What were you doing? What were you tinkering with?
I left. I went out of the studio, came back in, and now it's working. So I'm not going to unplug anything again. So what just happened, what we were just seeing was he got to this question about 7.8 and like the 14 pieces that fit together, and then they went to a sidebar. So I found this strange because when they come back from the sidebar, and I'm not sure, I can't even speculate on what it is. Lally doesn't even bring it back up again. So, and it comes back at.
As far as the significance of why they had to put this in, this is a major part of their case. They spent a huge amount of time going through two witnesses that are focused on the tail light and debris from the tail light because it is a major component of their case. You always have to remember that we don't matter in terms of observing this trial. The only people that matter are the jury, and you have to start from the baseline that the jury knows nothing about the case. Beyond that, the state has an absolute duty. They have a burden that they have to prove each and every element of the crimes that they're trying to convict her of. And in terms of either one, whether it be the manslaughter or the murder, they're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the vehicle, the Lexus, struck John O'Keefe. And a major component of them being able to prove that, as a matter of fact, I would argue it's the only component that they have that proves in their minds, the state's, the Commonwealth's mind, that John O'Keefe was struck by the vehicle is this broken taillight. So they have to go through the painstaking and incredibly boring testimony of putting it back together to show that this particular device was destroyed in this accident, that they collected all the pieces that they could find in the yard and on the street of 34 Fairview, and they've got a proper chain of custody, and they sent it off to the state police lab, and this young woman went through the painstaking task of putting a puzzle together, the puzzle being the taillight. So as boring as it is, the case cannot move forward without the Commonwealth doing this. They have to do it because it is an element of their crime. It is an element showing that the vehicle, at least in their estimation, made contact with John O'Keefe. And when we get to Buhkinek, we're going to see them try to dispel the notion that this taillight was broken by way of it hitting John O'Keefe's vehicle when Karen Reed is pulling out. But that's down the road a bit.
All right. So this is when they get back from the sidebar. So they went to a sidebar on this group of evidence that was labeled and marked as 7-8. And we're going to start up right coming back from the sidebar.
Turning your attention to item 7-9. You analyzed 3 pieces from that, is that correct?
Okay.
But I had it muted. Could you
Nick,
hear that?
turning your attention to item 7-9. You analyzed 3 pieces from that, is that correct?
Okay.
You know what, Nick Spillane, you can just look the whole.
Okay. Sorry, could you repeat your question?
How many pieces were contained again within item 7-9?
3
Pause it for a
7-9.
second. I
Yes.
want
Three
to
pieces.
address something.
And,
I'm not saying anything's proving anything. I'm trying to educate you guys on what the state needs to show the jury. Do you understand that? I don't know that this proves anything, but in the state's theory of the case, they have to reassemble this taillight and show that it came from the Lexus. So please don't, like I'm already seeing it doesn't prove it. I'm not saying it does. I'm saying that this part of the case, they have to build it brick by brick. And the first brick that they had to do for what's instrumental in the Commonwealth's case, whether they prove it or not is yet to be seen. But this is the first brick. They have to first establish that the taillight, in fact, came from that Lexus. You guys understand that? That's what I'm trying to explain to you. So don't take it as, I think this proves it doesn't prove shit. All right. All it proves in their minds is that particular taillight that she reassembled came from Karen's Lexus. That's what they're trying to prove. And
That the pieces from the clothing and the scene pieced together to form Karen's taillight.
what, if any, physical matches did you find contained within that item 7-9?
There are no mechanical fits.
And with reference to 7-10, how many pieces?
1 piece.
And with reference to item 7-11, how many pieces contained within that?
6 pieces.
And what, if any, physical matches did you find contained within 7-11?
There were none.
In 7-11, how many different colors of pieces were contained within 7-11?
There was black, red, and colorless apparent plastic.
Now, with reference to item 7-12, how many pieces were contained within that?
There were 14 pieces.
And of those pieces, again, how many different colors or how many different colors of pieces were within 7-12?
They're all colorless.
And from those, what, if any, mechanical fits did you observe or did you find within item 7-12?
Okay. So there were 3. Do you want me to say all the pieces that fit together?
Please.
Okay. So pieces B, C, D, F, and K all fit together. Pieces E and I fit together. And pieces M and N fit together.
So you can tell from this. So she's saying 6 of the 16 pieces, there were 3 that mechanically fit together, but that 3 that came together were made up of more than just 3 pieces. Like, for instance, she said the first set was made up of B, C, D, E, and K. So when they're labeling these pieces, they don't obviously know where they're going to ultimately, fit together. But all right.
Now, turning your attention to item 7-13, how many pieces were contained within item 7-13?
I say
3
we
pieces.
skip right to the cross.
And
I was going to do that, but I didn't want people to think like we were being unfair. But it really is just because the cross sort of flows so much better. But also, I'll just say that what she says from her analysis, that all the parts came from the same unit, and she can tell that by how they piece together. She used all of these pieces to make 5 larger pieces, piece 1 being the most significant. And they're going to, kind of talk about that a lot on cross. And then I'll just show this, because this is piece 1. So that's piece 1, and it's made up of, multiple pieces from the different, categories. And then that's piece 1 again, just from a different angle. So at the end, and you're going to see it on Yanetti's cross, you'll see what it looks like. And I don't know why, unless he might have put it on a different day. So I'm going to start by just saying Yannetti started with talking about how they number things when it comes into their lab.
Welcome to StockX, where we believe in sneakers for
Sorry,
everyone,
Bob.
from the greatest grills
told
to the
you,
latest
man.
trends.
All right. Well, you want to take over?
That
Can you give me the time marks?
Well, I'll do this one, and then you can take over after this for the next witness. So he starts off by just going into the fact that they number things the way it comes in, and then they kind of renumber it. And he focuses on this 7-18.18 item number, which is debris from a t-shirt and orange shirt. And that's obviously John O'Keefe's t-shirt and orange shirt. And he also goes through the categories of debris. Like there was dirt and debris. That was one category. She didn't test anything like that. There were several apparent hairs. She didn't test any of that. And then the other category of debris was apparent plastic. And that's obviously what we're dealing with here. And he starts out getting into the fact that, she didn't examine the shirts. He's just laying the foundation for how this witness can't tell us, was this evidence preserved? How did it get to her? What was done with it beforehand? And I think he does this in a very effective way. So we are actually going to start at, my notes say use this and then use this. So
All right, here. So
I'm
let
going to
me
go right to
pull
125.
yours down, and let me put mine up. Since
Well-
you refuse to just go to YouTube Premium, I can't deal with the commercials.
All right, well, it's going to be gone. Let me just do this part and then we'll switch. Okay. So he touches on the fact that she never saw who seized the shirts. She doesn't know who handled it before it got to her. She doesn't know who had access to it before it got to her. She doesn't know if the shirts were kept separate or if the apparent plastic was kept separate. So she doesn't really know anything. And he starts with these evidence bags that you get. The first thing you guys have, the information notes which trooper delivered the evidence to the lab. And she says initially she does not know which trooper delivered the orange shirt and the gray shirt to the lab. And then this is what happens after that.
I don't know.
Well, which state trooper delivered the pieces of red and clear plastic pieces, I should say, that you just testified about?
The item 7-5 to 7-19.
Right. The several pieces of red apparent plastic and one piece of clear apparent plastic measuring 1/8 of an inch by 1/16 of an inch. That's what I'm referring to.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes. You understand what I'm talking about, right? In terms of the several pieces of red apparent plastic and then the one piece of clear plastic that you have the measurements for?
You're talking about the apparent plastic that I noted in the debris of 7-18.18?
Correct. Which state trooper was it that delivered that?
Do you know?
Sorry, that's an odd question.
I don't know if you want her to repeat it, Janetti. Yeah, you have to repeat that, please.
So evidence is
No,
submitted to...
what you just said that he missed.
Oh, that's kind of an odd question.
Not for me.
So
Do you have a record of that?
a record of what?
A record of which state trooper delivered that debris to the lab?
So it wouldn't be delivered as debris. It would be delivered as the individual piece of clothing, which then got assigned item 7-18, I believe. And then as someone analyzes it, each offshoot of that piece of evidence gets a 7-18 point something. So the debris collected from that shirt is 7-18.18.
Okay, all right. Listen, when those
Your sound is off too. It's echoey.
when those several actually, let me check that.
All right, you take over and take over at 7:25, or I guess this is
Mine
No,
goes from
725.57 on long crime. And I'm going to explain this little giggling fest that they just had. So I'll stop sharing my screen, but you're at 125.57.
125.57. Okay.
Okay. So why she laughed when she was like, this is an odd question, because that's her point, is that no trooper delivered the debris. Like, she got the debris from whoever in the lab took it off of the shirts. So that's why she was kind of struggling with that question and why she called it an odd question. And then it sort of took Yannetti back, and he kind of circled back differently. But I think it was also because he might have realized that that was going nowhere based on that answer, as far as who delivered the debris specifically.
Yeah, and I mean, for the defense, he's obviously planting the seeds. It served two purposes. It injects the name Proctor, which we'll get to in Buhkinek. It became apparent to me today. Kind of spoiler alert, they're not putting Proctor on. I feel 99% confident they're not putting Proctor on the stand. The Commonwealth isn't. That doesn't
Based on
mean
the
state.
questions today, right?
Yeah, it was some real collective knowledge type doctrine stuff. It was like, when it happened, I'm like, wow, like, he's really not going to testify. So, but it plants the seed of Proctor, and it also plants the seed that this guy that the defense is going to be saying is nefarious and was really the mastermind and had the relationships with the Alberts and the McCabe's, and was really behind the scenes controlling what was going on with this investigation, happens to be the very person that delivers both the t-shirt, the gray hoodie, as well as the taillight pieces, all very late in time. All right, so I'm going to play it out.
And I honestly do think that this witness was real. She does know the answer, as you'll see, to who delivered the orange shirt and the gray shirt.
Well, sure, after she
But-
looked at the evidence.
Right. But I do think that she was put off by the question because no trooper delivered the debris. And in her mind, that was what she thought it was a strange question, because that's not the way the evidence got delivered.
That's an interesting question. Whether or not she'll allow the defense to treat her as hostile.
As Proctor is hostile.
Correct.
Right. It will depend on how he answers the questions. If he's not giving the answers they want, or that he seems evasive, or, then they can ask that he be deemed hostile, and that will just allow them to cross-examine him instead of have to ask leading questions.
And just so you guys understand, it's very, very difficult to direct exam a witness that you're supposed to be crossing.
And what is more, what I was thinking of even more interesting, will she make the state direct examine him? Because that either one of two things is happening.
No, cross-examine him. I mean, technically.
Right, but will they make him ask direct question, not allow him to
Well,
use...
if they're calling him as their witness, it's a direct, technically.
Right, but what I'm saying is, when Lolly cross-examines him, I want her to make him not be able to use leading questions, because this is bullshit. They're forcing the defense to call their witness, and this is what I'm going to say, for one of two reasons. Either one, there's an actual risk that he's going to plead the fifth, or two, they just want to be able to cross-examine him instead of have to ask, instead of what they have to do when they're doing a direct examination with open-ended questions. So what I would wonder is, could the judge say, you know what, this witness was in your control, you could have called him, you've got to treat your examination as a direct and only ask open-ended questions.
It's going to be fascinating if it plays out that way. But I just don't see a world in which, like, everything that Lally's been doing leading up to this has been establishing that Proctor was never alone. He always had two troopers with him, and he doubled and tripled down on it today.
Well, if he pleads the fifth, that he'll be doing that on the stand.
Like, what can he plead the fifth for?
Proctor?
Yeah, he's not going to make any admissions to. He's never. If he gets on the stand, he's never going to make any admissions that he planted evidence. It's never happened.
All I'm saying is, if he gets subpoenaed by the defense, he has to take the stand. And yeah,
Correct.
he's not going to talk about that, but there's some other things they might be able to broach, such as him directing them to destroy evidence, or him saying, was it him who said he was looking for nude pictures of her?
How was that relevant to this?
Wait, was that him or somebody else?
Yes.
Well, that's an abuse of power. So he would have to plead the fifth. He's not going to confess to a crime.
How, like, in what world is she going to even allow that question in where it's not relevant to the case?
It's most assuredly relevant to his credibility.
Well, that was the only argument they can make. I don't know if Judge Bev will agree with you.
Oh, well, I think that the Supreme Court might.
Well,
I think it's very relevant.
that means she's convicted.
Well, whatever. I'm just saying, I think it's relevant. I don't see a world where it's not, but
I mean, I'm sure he'll show up with an attorney, but that doesn't mean that he's taking the fifth. I mean, look, as far as I know, the federal investigation's still going.
Right. So there could be all I'm saying is there could be something, if they're creative enough and they know all the facts I don't, that would force him to plead the fifth, which he will then have to continue to do. He can't, once he pleads the fifth,
Yeah, and people keep saying he didn't have a search warrant, but the problem with attacking warrants when warrantless searches is that happens pre-trial, not at trial or beyond that.
Right. But they
So,
could
I keep but it's been a few people in this chat, and I saw a lot of people in our chat. Just so you guys understand, this is not the time for that. That
well,
time
but it could be
passed.
used to show that he doesn't follow procedures. It could be used to impeach him. But you're not allowed to impeach your own witness when you call him. So this is all very, very bizarre, because the rules require you cannot call a witness for the purposes of impeaching him. So, if you call him for some other purpose, and then you've got it's supposed to be basically an allegation coming from the other side that prompts you to be able to impeach your own witness. But I don't know how they're going to be able to handle this, but we're getting super off track, and I'm sure it'll come back up.
That was not predictable. Yeah, Lori, we're both 20+ year criminal trial attorneys. So yeah, but we are objective. Neither of us I have not reached any kind of conclusion on this case. But I'm open to all theories, including theories that neither the defense or the Commonwealth has brought forward. So there's that. All right, let's go.
Now we can't hear it.
You can't?
Oh, Lord.
Wait, you couldn't hear it?
If anyone else can, is it just me?
Can you guys hear it when I play it? I'm hearing it.
People aren't answering us. Play. I can't hear it. All right. Nobody else can hear it either.
All right, let me see what's up. Let me shrink it down. Maybe I've got it on mute. That would be no, I don't have it on mute. It's weird.
Did you share the audio when you shared the screen?
I think so.
Well, I mean, you do this every day when you're streaming, so it would assume...
I'm typically share screen. Yeah, it says share audio.
Who's the guy at the top? Oh.
Let's see if this works. Could you guys hear it the first time I was playing it?
I haven't heard anything since you've had the keys.
Anything?
No.
That's super weird. I don't know. All right, I guess go back to your weird.
I just closed all those windows down.
No, I did. I went to screen share audio. I've done all that. This isn't my first rodeo. I've got everything. Like on my end, it's proper. The site's not muted on StreamYard or StreamYard. It's proper. It's toggled share audio.
What was it that I had you stop at? Like 127 something?
Yeah, it was 125.
Oh,
like something. I'm at like 126.36 right now on mine.
All right.
Somebody said I had to discredit yours as weird. Did it not sound tinny to you guys when Allie's playback? It sounded like there was an echo. I don't know. Something's off. Something's off with both. Like, I don't know why we're not getting my sound. It's weird. I feel like it's AI. Is it AI? Could it be AI? All right, roll. Don't mind me. Full screen, babe.
Pieces, I should say, that you just testified about.
The item 7-5 to 7-19.
Right. The several pieces of red apparent plastic and one piece of clear apparent plastic measuring an 1/8 of an inch by 1/16 of an inch. That's what I'm referring to.
Wait, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes. You understand what I'm talking about, right? In terms of the several pieces of red apparent plastic and then the one piece of clear plastic that you have the measurements for?
You're talking about the apparent plastic that I noted in the debris of 7-18.18?
Correct. Which state trooper was it that delivered that?
Do you know?
Oh,
Sorry, that's like
okay.
that's an odd question.
Gonna go past this since we heard it.
What?
A record of which state trooper delivered that debris to the lab.
So it wouldn't be delivered at then as someone analyzes it. Each offshoot of that piece of would be 7-18.18.
Okay, all right. Listen, when those several, actually, let me say that. It's where I was.
Take your time, Mr. Giannetti.
Okay, so I want to confirm with you that when you were assigned to this case, you were aware that the date of the incident was January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
All right. And it's your testimony that you don't know which state trooper delivered the shirts to the lab, correct?
I could look at my notes because I have a printed chain of custody.
Sure, if you would check your notes for that, please.
Okay.
So she answered this question earlier saying no, she didn't know.
You too, Jennifer.
Okay, so submission 7, which is everything that's item 7- in this case, was submitted by Trooper Michael Proctor, I believe.
Oh, that was the answer to my question. Thank you. How long after January 29th of 2022, according to your records, did Michael Proctor deliver that clothing to the crime lab?
It was delivered on March 14th, 2022.
Okay, so about 6 weeks or so after January 29th, is that accurate?
Sure.
Given that your lab received this evidence on March 14th of 2022, you can't testify to the chain of custody of the clothing or the pieces of plastic prior to March 14th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And except for the tail light housing that was seized by Maureen Hartnett, except for that, your chain of custody at the lab for the 2 shirts plus the pieces of plastic in 7-18.18, that began on March 14th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
So between January 29th of 2022 and March 14th of 2022, you do not know what Michael Proctor did or didn't do with the orange t-shirt and gray long sleeve shirt, correct?
Judge.
I'll allow it.
I don't know.
Okay.
So I just want to note here that he asks this a question again later when he's like in a role and he's proven his points, and the judge doesn't let him ask it again. She says, asked and answered. But I note, I don't know how many times where Proctor has asked the same witness and numerous witness the same question over and over again.
You got Proctor on the mind. You mean Lally?
Oh, sorry, Lally. Yep. Thank you, babe.
Objection.
Now, I'd like to discuss with you, if I might, Michael Proctor's submissions of the pieces of plastic that you've testified about. Your lab received from Michael Proctor several different evidence bags containing red, clear, and black pieces of plastic, correct?
Correct.
Some of those evidence bags contain relatively small pieces of plastic in them, correct?
Correct.
And some of those evidence bags contained larger pieces, right?
Correct.
So now he goes on to talk about how the first bag that was delivered February 3rd was delivered by, or I'm sorry, recovered by Trooper. Is it Piccio or Diccio? Chico.
I think it's DeChico.
DeChico.
Yeah.
And then
Nice
it goes
Italian kid. We finally got an Italian kid in there. A bunch of Irish kids. Now we get an Italian kid.
So then he's going to go through, he's sort of going through that and laying down that. So there you go. Yeah, you're right. DeChico. Broken red and clear plastic from the front of the house. And you can see that was collected on February 3rd. So he goes through some of that. And this is what was collected from that. And you take note of the size and the ruler. Even though the largest piece there is not quite as large as the ruler is. And that's 7.8. That's the only thing that was recovered by somebody other than Proctor. So I'm just looking at my time here. And then he's going to go right into contrasting why is it doing that to me? The size. So here we go.
Were found days and weeks later by Michael Proctor. And I'd like to start first with item 7-13. This is, I'd like to display exhibit 343, which, Mr. Bates, is item 5.
Oh, Joey Jackalone's in the chat. Joe's got a big day tomorrow.
Okay.
Have you heard? Babe, they're going in, adding a charge on Hewerman.
Exhibit 343, which is now displayed on the screen.
I did.
Yes.
Could be a huge
That
day.
is the first
February
evidence
8th.
bag submitted by Trooper Proctor. Is it not?
Proctor from Fairview.
So in mine, sorry.
And you know what, let me rephrase that. He submitted evidence bags all at one time, correct?
Yes.
All on 314. So when I said the first evidence bag, I meant the earliest date of collection. I should have asked it that way. February 8th of 2022.
Sure. I don't know all the dates that each item was collected on.
Okay. But in any case, those, according to the evidence bag that you received, the contents of that bag, which were, again, pieces of plastic, correct?
Pieces of apparent plastic.
Pieces of apparent plastic. Those were found 5 days after the pieces that you previously testified were found by the Chico, right, on February 3rd?
Correct.
Right? And February 8th was now 10 days after January 29th, correct?
Correct.
Can I have displayed exhibit 346, which is 5A?
Joe's going to have all the deets.
Okay, looking at exhibit 346, you will agree with me that this particular piece found on February 8th by Trooper Proctor was quite a bit larger than the third.
Right. So here he's just that's the point of all this testimony. And then here it is to show this is collected on the 11th.
Lists the law enforcement officer who recovered the plastic pieces as Trooper Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
And the date of recovery of those pieces was February 11th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And again, harkening back to DeChico's evidence bag from February 3rd, this is now 8 days later that these pieces are found, correct?
Correct.
And it's now almost 2 weeks that these pieces are found after January 29th, right? 13 days?
Correct.
All right, if I could show exhibit 355, which is 8 days, Vince.
So pause it for a second. So I had a couple
You would
people in
agree
my
with
chat.
me?
Susan Skinner, who's always with us and always asks great questions. And she was wondering, well, is this hurting the defense that they're talking about the fact that all of these smaller pieces were found? And the answer to that is no. What Yannetti's point is here is that it's awful strange that in theory you're finding much smaller, more difficult pieces of the tail light to discover overall, and those are making it to the lab way before these huge honking pieces of tail light make it to the lab.
But her point is well taken, and I'll show and we'll circle back to that at the end of this cross, because I was wondering if it was going to come up in a closing argument or if I'm missing something, but I'll point it out to you when we get to it. But I don't think that it takes away from the possibility that it was planted just because there are little pieces found.
Well,
But
I think it builds into the theory, because why are they turning in microscopic and teeny pieces of the taillight that would have been much more difficult to find much closer in time to the incident? And they're turning in huge pieces that would have been much easier to find. It's the same problem I had with the shoe. How didn't the people that were searching in the morning, when there's barely any snow on the ground, miss a shoe that's laying up against a curb? Like I have a real problem with that, like common sense wise, and like I've seen people post, oh, they had plowed through there. Well, I think we're going to learn when Lucky Lawfren comes on, who's the plow guy, that he didn't plow. He didn't plow at 2:30 when he made a run by the property, and he didn't plow in the early morning hours because the emergency vehicles were there. So there was no plowing done. So you have to remove that excuse as to why it was missed at that point. I mean, you would think 3 feet away or 4 feet away from John O'Keefe's body there's no way they're going to miss a shoe. Right. But apparently they did.
Okay. And so this is item that gets marked 715. It was collected, as we just saw, on February 11th at the Albert House. Then he's going to go to 716. Now this is on February 18th. And we'll see some pieces of that. February 18th from Fairview, and that's 716.
So that's like a 5-inch piece right there. It's big.
They said it was 11 centimeters.
Yeah. I mean, you could see the inches underneath the centimeters right there. It's like 5, maybe, 5 inches and some change.
Right.
Like a hair over 5 inches.
Right.
It's big.
Quite a bit larger than those smaller plastic pieces found by Trooper Buhkinek on February 3rd, correct?
Correct.
This one appears to be about 11 centimeters long, approximately.
Sure.
All right. If I could show Exhibit 376, which is 90, Mr. Bates. Okay. And you would agree with me that this particular piece found by Trooper Proctor on February 18th is also quite a bit larger than those smaller plastic pieces found by Trooper Buhkinek back on February 3rd, correct?
Correct.
In fact, that appears to be larger than the piece that you just identified in Exhibit 380, correct?
The one that was just on the screen?
Right.
Yes.
This one appears to be maybe about 18 centimeters long. Does that seem accurate?
I mean, it's longer than the ruler.
Okay, yeah. And finally, if we could show Exhibit 378, which is 9 centimeters.
So still, showing that it's longer.
Item number 713, 715, and 716 in February of 2022, from February 8th to the 18th. Those were all plastic pieces collected by Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to collecting those pieces,
We turn the lights on, Ms. Giannetti?
I'm sorry.
Okay. And we can take that down, please?
Yes. In addition to collecting those plastic pieces on all those different days, Michael Proctor was also the person to hand deliver those last 3 evidence bags, all on March 14th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And you do not know what Michael Proctor did or didn't do with those evidence bags of pieces of taillight prior to March 14th, 2022, when your lab received them, correct?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain it. We've already asked that.
Now, the taillight of that Lexus sits in the housing of the Lexus, the taillight housing, such that part of the taillight faces the rear of the car and part of the taillight loops around and faces the passenger side of the car, correct?
Sure.
Right, because it's on the corner.
Sure, yeah.
You'd agree with me that once you received the final pieces of taillight from Michael Proctor on March 14th, and once your lab received that, you were then able to piece together a majority of the taillight, correct?
So I wasn't assigned this case until later, once everything had already been submitted to the laboratory.
Right. So it was true that after Michael Proctor submitted these pieces of taillight on March 14th, it was after that that you were able to do the reconstruction that you testified about, correct?
Correct.
If I could have exhibit 432 displayed.
So here we go.
Image 2151, please.
And this is what I'm going to compare it to the video of the taillight.
That is the reconstruction, the final reconstruction that you were able to do, correct? You would agree with me that there's one section of that taillight that was missing completely, correct?
Correct.
And that missing section is noticeably visible in your reconstruction, is it not?
Yes,
And do you still have that laser pointer there?
I do.
Would you please point to the section of taillight that's missing? Okay. Appears to be a hole on the upper left side of that exhibit.
Is that a question?
Yes, it actually was. I should have said right or correct, but I didn't.
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me, and I think it's zoomed back out, Mr. Bates. You would agree with me that the portion of the taillight that you did not have was strictly on the rear side of the taillight, if I can call it that.
I am not sure what orientation that goes on to a car.
Okay. But in any case, to
Come
this
on.
day, you do not know where the pieces that make up that hole are or what happened to them, correct?
I do not.
I mean, more.
So mic drop for me right there. Mic drop. So the point being that there's this whole open part. And of course, now Bob's gone, and I wanted to hear what he had to say about this.
No, I'm
But-
here.
Oh, so that was a mic drop moment for me where he says, and to this day, you still don't know where all these missing pieces are that are only on the back of the vehicle. So now while I go to boot up this next part, talk about that for a minute.
Well, I mean, why? Well, let me ask you this. Why do you consider that to be a mic drop? I consider it's possible that they didn't see it and it got plowed away in a pile of snow somewhere. You know, because it's like one of the things that's hard for me to contemplate is the fact that they're like whatever speed they're saying that this collision happened, I don't see a taillight exploding in such a way that there's pieces of it flying into the yard.
So
At
this is
20
why it's a mic drop moment for me. So he's talking about the fact, can you hear me?
Why wouldn't I be able to hear you?
Oh, because I thought I muted something. Sorry.
No, I can hear you.
He's talking about the fact that it's only at the back is the only missing pieces, which brings us back to obviously this is what we're all thinking of. Okay, it's only at the back. It's from, they don't have the pieces that were lost when she hit this vehicle at this precise moment. So now what you have to do is look at when it's pulling away. And he pauses it there as well. So I guess it doesn't matter that I am. But the question becomes, is there more than that missing there? And I mean, it looks like it might be.
At that point,
This is when she's pulling away. And I remember this looks cleaner than the video you and I had looked at it before, where you were saying there's a little gap there. Remember, you were like, there's a small gap there where the light's not coming out. And I was like, where?
zoom it in as much as you can. Yeah, like people are saying it looks intact. It looks red. Well, when you have red around it, it's going to bleed into it. It's obviously cracked. Like at that point, it's cracked. Like we all know that the taillight was cracked. It was either cracked as a
From this
result of hitting John's vehicle or John O'Keefe.
And then there's this. Well,
What
it's
I
pulling
don't think
away.
happened is that they cracked the taillight in the solid board completely where it was not damaged. I don't believe that happened.
Right. So you've got this little area
Yeah.
there, and the question
Right.
just becomes when you go back to this one. No, I have to stop the screen again. You know, could that be just this? What do you think, Bob?
I mean,
It
it
looks-
certainly could be. It certainly could be. I mean, it's hard to know. You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, like that's a big assembly. Can you zoom in? How big is that ruler? Is that a 6-inch? Like what is the size of that ruler? Can you
well,
make it
she's
out?
used it before here.
See, but we can't see the other end of it. It seems to me
It
it's like
ends at
around
18, I thought it was.
All right. If I could,
what, 18 inches? No way.
No?
No. Then that assembly would be like 3 feet big. No, it can't be 18.
Here's
It's got to
one.
be like that looks like 6 inches to me, maybe
Yeah,
8 inches.
I can't, for whatever reason, I can't zoom.
It's a big ass assembly is the point.
Right. I can't zoom on this as I could on the other screen. It was probably because I'm in full screen. There we go.
All right.
Yeah.
Can anybody see that? Anybody with good eyes?
It's probably
It's 6 inches.
probably a foot.
I was
6?
able to blow up our screen.
Oh,
it's
6.
inches.
I was looking at the centimeters.
Honey, you're so sweet. You know, like ugly Americans don't use the metric system. So centimeters, is that even metric? I don't know what it is, but
No, centimeters is our system.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Somebody will, some sciencey person will tell us in the chat if that's correct. If it's
So
got
then
it's got the word meters in it, it's metric system to me.
the redirect didn't really go
Yeah, skip that. We don't have time
very
for
far.
it.
And then I had a time that I was starting
So
the
I
next
mean,
one.
at the end of the day, she doesn't do much to move the needle. Like I said, like her entire purpose was to get in the fact that the taillight's damaged and that she put it together. And I mean, she can't say with absolute certainty that all of those pieces are from that taillight. She can't say that because, you know, this mechanical fit that they kept talking about, you know, and the thing with and I want to go back to Susan Skinner's thing, you know, like her concern, and I had put it up on there, was the fact that it was someone different that was finding the smaller pieces, not Proctor. I think that when you're talking about pieces that are microscopic and found on the shirt, which is far more damning, you know, that like, I think that the thought is that Proctor could have taken his thumbnail and flicked off, like he's got the pieces with him. He's got John's shirt. He flicks his thumbnail across the thing, and you're getting microscopic, you know, like shards of it in there that you're not even able to see. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't know that it damages that concept. I'm certainly not saying that's what happened, but I don't know that it's like a death knell to that idea at all. You know, because he's got pieces of the taillight and he's got the shirts.
Right. And it is odd that the only piece that they can't find are the pieces that would have been broken in that, you know, in that rear ending incident.
STS better be at 9. I've looked at the email. If it's not, 15 minutes. Like the email told me 9 Eastern, which is 8 for me.
Let me check.
No, you keep working. I'll keep moving.
I was just going to check YouTube to see if
I'll check it.
Okay. So I'm going to summarize the direct and go to the cross. So on the direct, and I'm not sure because this doesn't have a little, you know, ticker like Bob and Jay have what this woman's name is, but it's a different forensic analysis who analyzed the glass. And she starts out by talking about she's got 3 item numbers that she's working with. 3-2, which was a clear apparent drinking glass. So now we're talking about the glass that you know, allegedly John left the bar with. 3-3, clear apparent glass pieces recovered from the bumper of the vehicle. And then we've got 7-12, which is clear glass recovered from the ground at 34 Fairview, and 7-14, clear apparent glass recovered from the road. So he goes through her observations about 3-2 having some irregular edges, and it was 2 3/4 inches, and then 2.5 inches in height. And what was noteworthy for the state to establish there was that there was dirt and debris noted on the interior and the exterior of the glass, which at this point it's been, I don't know, possibly plowed around and moved around and shoveled around. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't have dirt on the interior and exterior of the glass. And then 3-3 was 5 clear plastic pieces of glass, all with broken irregular edges, the largest being 7/8 of an inch by 5/16 of an inch. And I'm not sure if he's saying here that the broken glass is irregular because it's, again, him trying to allude to an explanation to the injuries on the arm, or what the
Are you talking about
thinking.
the weird little bumps on there?
No, now we're talking about the glass that not the plastic, the glass from the glass that was taken out of the John O'Keefe had. Right.
How
And
absurd.
they may have been
What,
doing that with the plastic pieces as well, Bob, what you're saying, but he made it.
there's no way. Like, that's even more
Right.
absurd than the broken glass causing all those wounds. So in terms of, and I saw Meg, one of our, like, they didn't prove anything in terms of Karen committing the crime. Like I said, they proved that, at least in their eyes, that assembly came from her Lexus.
I'm going to go off and say
That's
they did prove
like
that. They proved that those pieces came from her. They were able to reassemble it.
That's all they proved. Right. They haven't proved anything in my world relating to homicide of either a murder nature or a manslaughter nature. They've proven nothing as to
and
that.
I don't know that it doesn't rule out the possibility that it was planted when you compare, again, the fact that there was that missing chunk when she is pulling away from having hit the car. And that's the only piece that they can't seem to find. And that's why the defense focused on that. And that why, to me, that was their mic drop moment. Because of that. So then she goes on to say 712, item 712 was 14 pieces of clear material, 5 pieces that were apparent plastic, and 9 that were pieces of glass. And 714 was 1 piece of cracked apparent glass with broken irregular edges. So she examined them all using a grim. She talked about reflective light and what she's looking at, and how she's basically the only person in her lab that can even do this type of evaluation of glass, that she's got the training some other people don't have. And she examined 3.2 and 7-12 and 714, and then she compared 3-2 to 3-3 and 3-3 to 7-14, and she used the grim, and she talked about the characteristics. And then I just, by the time we got to the I wasn't sure what was happening on the direct, to be perfectly honest. By the time we got to the cross, and that's where we're just going to pick this up, I was left thinking, all right, so they made no matches, but let's look at it together.
May I inquire? Yes. Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Beth. Well, almost afternoon, Ms. Hamlin.
Good morning.
I'd like to show you a document just to begin our conversation this morning, if I may. May I approach?
Yes.
This has been previously identified as VV, as in Victor. And I'd like to ask you, first of all, to take a look at that and tell me if you generally recognize what that document is.
So what he's doing here is he's trying to get this piece of evidence in through her as a business record. And we'll talk a little bit about it after he goes through these steps. But he basically has to show that it's something created for their business, by their business.
It appears to be a chain of custody of several items.
Okay, and is that a chain of custody document reflective of the crime lab's case number in this case? Sort of a clumsy question. Do you understand what my question is?
It is the chain of custody for 22-02184.
And is that the case number that the Massachusetts State Crime Lab, Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab is still assigned to this case that you're testifying about today?
Yes, that's correct.
And you've seen reports like this before, correct?
Yes,
They're routinely used in the crime lab to track evidence and maintain chain of custody, at least at the crime lab. Is that right?
that's correct.
And the information contained in the report is entered at or near the time of the event that's memorialized.
All the
Yes.
elements for a
And it's
business
relied
record.
on generally by the crime lab as a business record, correct?
Um,
As a record of the event memorialized.
yes, it's a record of the chain of custody of items within the lab.
Okay, and my question is
You
it
rely
relied
on it.
by the lab for truth and accuracy, especially to maintain it, to track items of evidence within the lab?
Yes, it does track items.
And the information contained in the report is presumed by you and other supervisors at the lab to be accurate. Is that right?
Yes.
Now I'll move for the admission of VB as an exhibit.
Objection.
See that, we'll see you at Sidebar.
All right. So while they're going to sidebar, I'll just say it is extremely odd, at least
Yes,
to me,
Jim,
as far as I
Specifically
see
to the
it.
glass pieces
that-
that Mr. Lally asked.
Sorry,
you.
guys.
Jim,
Muted.
Okay. That the state is fighting getting the labs. I mean, it's very typical for chain of custody to be, relied upon. He's trying to offer it in as a business record. He did lay the foundation. Everything that he asked was like I've heard Bob explaining on other streams. Like there's certain questions you guys are like, why are they asking this? Like for a photograph, does this truly and accurately represent what you saw at the time you saw it? Yes, So he asked all the right questions. What they decided is they'll take it up later. I'm sure that the judge doesn't feel like dealing with this right now. But what's odd, and it begs the question, what the hell is the state trying to hide? And I don't know that the jury will see it as blatantly as like a lawyer does, but it's just very odd that the state is, the Commonwealth is arguing this point and not just letting them get the chain of custody,
Yeah, and that's
into
what I'm
evidence. There might
always-
be some hearsay in it, but it's a business record, so that would take care of that.
for certain. And I'm always curious as to, because that's what matters. All that matters is what a jury is taking away from this. It doesn't matter what you and I are taking away. We're looking at it through lawyer lenses, and like the folks that are dug in on a position, that already have a predetermined bias coming in into whether or not Karen's completely innocent in this, or they think that she's guilty. They're looking at it through those lenses. I want to hear from the people that had no idea about this case coming in, how they're viewing it, because they're the closest we can get to a juror. Because like when I'm trying to probe it and trying to figure out how is this playing off of the jury, it's all that matters in a case, all of it. Like what you and I are saying here doesn't matter, but we do look at it in terms of what impact is it potentially having on a jury. I don't think that any of this that we saw today, up until you get to Buhkinek or whatever, I almost
I
keep calling him.
disagree. I think what we're about to see what has an impact, and I still think it was
For the defense.
for the defense. Yeah. No, I mean, look, I do think, in being objective, that the state was able to show that those pieces fit together and how they fit them together, and that they came from different sections and different areas, and it wasn't all the same batch. And, that was something. But then I think that the defense, put a lot of cloud on it about the mystery guy. No one's even the state's not even, the Commonwealth is choosing not to call, and coupled with that missing spot that they couldn't fill being the back. Like
And
that
I
to me
think
is
they're
huge.
never going to be able to prove to me that assembly was destroyed. Like, because when we are going to have the medical examiner, and the biggest problem that I've had with the state's case before trial was the injuries in no way are consistent with him being hit by an SUV. No,
That
like I
shatters
don't
that thing like
give a
it did.
shit what ME that they're going to put on there. I'm a like a 54-year-old man. I've hit deer. I've been in accidents. I've seen people that have been in accidents. I know what damage cars take. I know what damage bodies take. If I were to ask our son, who's a firefighter, who like extracts people out of vehicles, or people that have been hit, like the guy's a medic, to have no injuries anywhere on the torso, the legs, is implausible to me. His head was down. He got You're talking about blowing a taillight. Like, they're not going to be able to prove that the taillight was destroyed in the way that she had to put it together. Ever.
And I still don't get why there's pieces of glass on the ground right by the curb, and then there's pieces of glass, but the pieces of the taillight are way back in the grass, like what in the
Don't
hell
get me
could
started on the mystery hair that somehow survives 60 miles round trip from Karen driving to her father's house.
That's
it
another
getting-
little video I want
it
to
gets
show right
brought
now while you're
back.
talking about that.
What?
There's another little video I'm going to show while you're talking about that.
Dude, like, that hair thing is beyond. Like, in a blizzard. Like, when they showed the video today with Buhkinek on the stand of like a foot and a half of snow that they're driving through, the concept that this little hair is somehow stuck on the back of the SUV is just unbelievable.
Correct. Yes.
And you've
Mr.
got this car
And then a
driving through.
Okay.
Oh, did I miss
That's what
it?
I'm talking. That's exactly
Right.
That's what I was talking about. That's the foot and a half of snow. I mean, dude, what? Like, I was making fun all day that, Buhkinek had his eyes on
scene.
that hair the whole time. I never
We loaded
took
up-
my eyes off the hair. Look, my
I
hair.
mean, it's just kind of bizarre that they're showing
This video
this.
captures the vehicle,
Well, the
being
purpose of
moved
showing
into
this
position to be
was
loaded up onto the
to
flatbed,
show that
for transport from the
Karen
scene.
and her father go to the back.
Right, I get it. I'm just saying it's also like this thing's in so much snow,
crazy.
caked on and everywhere, that somehow the snow melts and the hair's still there.
The hair.
It seems.
Yeah,
it
you really have to
seems,
keep your voice up.
The hair
unlikely.
remains. If Lally doesn't keep his voice up, she's gonna turn the air off. Just remember that.
Oh boy.
Objection.
Okay.
All right, so
Sorry.
are we skipping to Buhkinek now?
You're gonna. Oh, your thing's not working, but
I don't know why it's not working. It's so bizarre.
we're gonna have to do some of Buhkinek, and I just think it's gonna make more sense to wait till his is done to be able to give a really good analysis. But let's hear this, because I think this was compelling.
And I'm sorry, my request at Sidebar is reserved.
Yes.
Thank you. May I inquire?
Yes.
So his issue is reserved on
Yeah,
whether
I would
that's a
draw your
business record.
attention, specifically to the glass pieces that Mr. Lally asked you about. Would you agree that there's a lot of numbers that were discussed, correct?
A lot of,
I compared 3-2 to 7-12, and A, B, C, and D of 7-12 were compared with 3-2 and 3-3. A lot of numbers, right?
yes, there are a lot of numbers, items.
Okay, I'm gonna try, if I can, see how well it goes, to clear that up and categorize those.
Sure.
Perhaps, would you agree that we could put the items that you compared and examined in your analysis in 4 categories? 3-2, the cup, the glass. 3-3, the bumper, glass. 7-12, the 9 pieces of glass recovered by a trooper named Buhkinek at the scene. And 7-14, a single piece of glass recovered by a trooper named Proctor at the scene. Would you agree that those 4 categories are basically what you analyzed between them on each other?
Yes, there's 4 total items.
Okay. And within those items, there were some subcategories of items in some of those, correct?
Yes, because some of the items had multiple pieces, so they were labeled.
Boy, he's ready to go. He's ready to go.
Keep track of the pieces.
Okay. So if I could ask you to take those one at a time, pardon me, 3-2, under that column visually, that would be a single item, just a cup, correct?
Correct.
3-3, under that single item, the bumper, there would be 5 sub-items, A, B, C, and D, and E.
Yes, that's correct.
Public school education. Under 7-12, the third column, there's 9 pieces, correct? A, B, C, D, E, F is in Frank, I, K, and L are the 9 glass pieces, correct?
Correct.
They're close to being alphabetical, not quite toward the end, right?
So
I have to look at my report for the exact letters, but go ahead and look at.
So while she's looking, I just want to note he only used the 9 glass pieces. There was also 5 pieces of plastic mixed in there, but all Jackson referred to is the glass, which is all that's important for this.
The 9 pieces of clear apparent glass were labeled as A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L.
Okay, and then of course, the last category would be 7
Pre-trial, Lally used the word embedded, that the glass was embedded into the bumper. And from every picture I've seen, it was not embedded. The word embedded means dug into. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Yeah, maybe I haven't seen the picture. How the hell is it not embedded, but it's still on there? It makes no sense.
well, that again, it's the whole Blizzard issue. You know.
All right, let's go.
that was recovered at the scene by Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Objection, Your Honor, just.
So I'm going to see Counsel at Sidebar for just a minute on this.
And I'm not sure what the issue was.
Are unmuted.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, so the last category we were talking about, 7-14, that was a single piece of glass, correct?
That's correct.
First of all, I'm going to ask you to take your comparisons one at a time, if I can. You compared the cup in 3-2 to the 9 pieces recovered at the scene. A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L, correct?
Is that 7-12 you're talking about?
7-12. All right, thank you.
Sorry, can you say the letters again? I just don't know if I heard all of them.
A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, L.
Yes, that's correct.
Of those pieces that I just mentioned, the cup
Ba-dum,
is a
ba-bum.
match
Drum roll.
to A, B, C, D, F, and K, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Pieces E and I were compared to each other, and you matched them, correct?
So I believe I have to look further in my notes, but I believe E and I were found to fit together by
Problems, meaning mechanical problems.
yes, but
Not by me.
I would have to check my notes, but I believe it was the previous analyst that looked at 7-12 that found a physical match between E and I.
So she can't even stand behind that.
Is it okay if I look at my notes?
Sure, I don't want to get bogged down, but yes, please.
The judge is even like, what?
Why aren't
Can't-
you doing the?
I am.
Item 7-12 was previously examined by another analyst in the trace unit. Specifically, E and I received, when I
She's
opened
sweating.
this item for examination, E and I were taped together because they were found to have a physical match by the analyst who previously examined the item.
Great. Importantly, E, I, and L, however, were not found to match the cup in 3-2, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
All right. No matches to the cup. Okay. That's
You also
7-12.
compared the cup in 3-2 to the 5 items recovered on the bumper in 3-3, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You also analyzed the cup in 3-2 against the 5 items, A, B, C, D, and E, in 3-3, the bumper glass, correct?
Kitty, if you're talking about what the basis of objections are, she ruled at the very beginning that she didn't want
I
the
did
lawyer
examine,
stating the basis for objection.
Very strange.
I compared item 3-2
We both ranted about that early on. in the trial.
to 2 of the pieces marked as A and B from item 3-3,
And
which
those were
was
deemed not to match the cup, correct?
correct.
And you did not analyze C and D, correct? I'm assuming that's because of size.
So the glass in the bumper doesn't match the glass, the actual glass.
So the rest of the items were not used for physical match examination due to size and condition.
So as you sit here, none of the items on the bumper were deemed to match the cup, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you did end up analyzing one of the items on the bumper, item E as an echo, and you analyzed that against the single piece of glass found at the scene in 7-14, correct?
Which
Correct.
Proctor
And you
found.
used both, well, you used a variety, it sounds like, of analyses, including microscopy, UV light, the glass refractive index, Grimm process, correct?
That's correct.
You also used the FTIR, is that right? Infrared spectrometry?
That's incorrect.
Okay, you did not use FTIR in this analysis.
I did not.
Okay, but in the analysis that you did use, you found that there was a match between item E on the bumper and the single piece of glass in 714, correct?
They were found to be consistent. They were found to be consistent. In,
Wait, you're
physical
saying match.
properties.
I'm like,
So, importantly, you also compared the single piece of glass in our sort of visual column 4, 714, that single piece of glass, to the cup. You found it didn't match, correct?
Correct.
So,
what the hell is this? What are we doing here? What matched?
lastly,
Not
you
much.
tested the single piece of glass found in the fourth column, 714,
Proctor's
against-
glass.
the 9 pieces of glass found in 712, A, B, C, D, E, F, I, K, and L, correct?
I got to deal with Scarlett. You're gonna have to take this over.
I did compare item 714 to item 3-2 and the 9 pieces in item 7-12.
So another way to put that would be you analyze column 4 against column 3 now, correct?
I examined them for a possible physical match.
And they did not match, correct?
There was no physical match to item 714.
You want me to approach this one?
Okay. Want to show Mr. Lowry what you have?
Sure. I'm looking for the one that's already labeled. I don't have it. May I approach the magistrate and ask if he's got WW a chance?
No, I do.
May I borrow that from court? Thank you. I'd like you to take a look at that document. Just glance it over for a second and let me know when you've had an opportunity to study that.
Okay.
You've taken a look at that single page document?
Yes.
Does that appear to accurately reflect in sort of a visual manner what you just testified to about your analysis of each of these pieces, irrespective of the text on the item, just the analysis of the items specified in that document?
I'm not quite sure what. I've never seen this before. I'm not quite sure what.
I
Seems
think you have to move
rattled
along,
here.
Mr. Jackson, for all the reasons we talked about at Sidebar.
I understand. My question is a relatively simple one. Is this and if you don't understand something on the document, just say so. Is this a visual representation, an accurate visual representation of what you just testified to in terms of what matched and what didn't match? The green matches, the circle with the red through it doesn't match.
I would need to go through my conclusion and compare to confirm.
Fair enough. It is accurate to say, we'll use a cheat sheet for a second. It is accurate to say that the cup was not found to match any items that were found on the bumper. That's correct, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Also, it's fair to say that the piece recovered under 714, the single piece of glass recovered under 714, does not match either the cup, nor does that piece match any of the 9 pieces in 712, correct?
And you can look at your notes if that's easier for you. We just want the right answer, Mr. Jackson, right?
Of course.
So take your time with your notes if that's easier for you.
Typically, you might hate that a judge does this, but it actually plays into the defense because she's going to give
So,
him
I'm
the
sorry,
answer.
can you just repeat the last question that you asked for?
The single piece of glass under 714 neither matches the cup, nor does it match any of the 9 pieces found in 712. In other words, it stands alone.
And I think it.
When
Go
they're
ahead.
referring to the cup, they're talking about this cup that John left the bar with. right?
Yes, the actual glass. Yeah,
I don't know
the
why.
glass cup. That's why he's calling it a cup because they're comparing pieces of glass to the glass cup.
Well, it was a
So
rock.
that's correct. So 714,
Right?
there was no
I think John was drinking
physical
beer
match
though.
between 714 and 3-2 or any of the pieces in 7-12.
Thank you. And then my final question is, the only piece of material, glass material, that was recovered from the bumper, item E, the only thing that any piece on that bumper matched was the single piece of glass found in 714.
By Michael Proctor.
Correct?
So piece E from item 3-3 was the piece that I examined microscopically and instrumentally. It was found to be consistent in physical and instrumental properties with 7-14.
And that the only piece of material on that bumper in that section, in other words, in 3-3, that matched anything else in your analysis. The piece that was found singularly under 714, correct? The only other.
Yes, it was found to be consistent.
That's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Well,
So to me, that was like, it's huge.
For the defense.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I don't even understand.
See, but again, is the jury taking away this Proctor figure?
Well, even ignoring Proctor, the fact that none of those pieces of glass, I mean, they have to at this point now be thinking Proctor, right? Because what Jackson just did, it tied back to what Yannetti did, and it was abundantly clear. He didn't even need to say Proctor. He's just like, it only matched this one tiny piece of glass, and then that'll, come back again. But it's,
Oh, it's certainly going to be argued in closing. That's for certain.
It's bizarre that they'd find that many pieces of glass and none of them match the actual
glass.
Right.
Yeah. And somebody like John was ordering bottled beer. Like this, like, I don't think this was a highball glass. Like, I don't even know where this glass came from. So
Well, don't we find out with the next witness? He said that he was observed taking a glass out of the bar.
Right. But he wasn't drinking unless it was Karen's drink, Karen's drink, but he didn't even leave with Karen. So I don't know. All right, let's try to do, I agree.
Yeah, we'll do some of,
we'll do a little bit of Buhkinek today, and then tomorrow the cross. It'll be better because he's a good witness. Like, these two were very dry witnesses, and you really had to kind of really pay attention to see what was what with it in terms of if a needle was moved either way. I just love reading through like the Twitters and like watching the two sides that are so dug in, like, oh, case is made today for the state, and they didn't prove shit.
I'd love to hear from you guys if you're out there and you think that. Please let us know in the comments. We'd love the back and forth to hear if specifically people who think that something moved them towards the prosecution today, made a good point and moved the needle in their opinion, even if they were already of the mindset that she's guilty. And I'd love to hear what it is, and also to know if anything on the cross-examination altered anyone's position on this evidence.
Yeah, the problem, like I figured out, you are not getting the sound of the video through your headphones still, correct?
Correct.
So why I'm hearing the echo is because your mic is picking up the screen. You need, I'll show you how to do it, but
I don't know why. We know when I took my headphones out earlier, then everything, I couldn't hear anybody and no one could hear me. So I don't know why that.
I know why it is, but
all right.
I can't get down there to fix it. All right, so get into some Buhkinek. And when we do our review and wrap up in legal analysis tomorrow, we'll go through all of Buhkinek because he's a huge witness. He is basically taking the place of Proctor. That is completely evident. Everything that they would have gotten in through Proctor, they've now decided to put in through Buhkinek. He's their star witness.
And there's some of that. I'll play a couple of questions in the beginning that sort of reflect what you're talking about right there? I want to get to the right
answer
part.
questions. The content of the conversation began with her saying that.
Oh, no, I went way too far.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2866.
Oh, this is
Sorry,
after the
directing
break. I
attention
got to
to the
go
screen,
up. Sorry, guys.
Each county, the district attorney's office is provided jurisdiction over all death investigations. As a result,
Okay,
the law enforcement entities that are assigned to that Norfolk or that district attorney perform the investigations. In Norfolk County, those individuals are members of the Massachusetts State Police assigned to the State Police Detective Unit within our office.
And so as far as death investigations, what exactly or what type of investigations would that encompass?
Death investigations that we have jurisdiction over are all unattended deaths. Unattended death means that a physician, a doctor, is not overseeing the individual that passes. Those deaths would be suicides, homicides, overdose type deaths, natural deaths, accidental deaths, and so forth. Any type of death that is not overseen by a doctor at a medical facility or in a hospice type situation.
So as a result of your assignment to this unit and that sort of exclusivity of jurisdiction over unattended deaths within Norfolk County, if you know approximately how many death investigations have you been a part of over the course of your work with the State Police Detective?
Over the last 9 years, I would venture to say it was over 500 death investigations that I was a part of.
And sorry, over the course of
It's still 500 death investigations does not qualify you to give any kind of analysis as to what may have caused injuries or what the injuries are.
Yeah, and we'll hear some of that coming up here now.
Scores of investigations that involve some sort of head trauma.
And through the course of your investigations, in those cases that have involved scores of head trauma, have you been privy to information as far as medical findings, autopsy reports, things of that nature in relation to those prior investigations?
Yes, sir, I have been.
Now, with regard to your observations to Mr. O'Keefe, with regard to his items, what if any observations did you make, and what if any, well, let me start just with physical observations. What if any physical observations did you make of Mr. O'Keefe's face and body in general?
His face, I observed the swelling and the discoloration being produced through the blood pooling in the eyelids.
Yeah, so just your observation, so the swelling and discoloration.
So there she reins him in. She doesn't want him saying what it was caused by. I just want to hear what you observed with your own eyes. So the discoloration.
She reined him in the whole way. Every time, like Jackson was very, very, very quick to object anytime he could sense that this guy was about to make some kind of medical proclamation.
I thought his abrasions break down, even though it was just supposed to be his understanding of an abrasion went a little too far. But
yeah, well, when he described him as linear, he lost all credibility in terms of like there's nothing linear about any of those.
All right, well, let's get to it and we can opine.
I'll strike the remainder of what you've said.
I also observed a cut to his nostril and an eyelid, which was very small in size, which would have been produced by a objection.
Yeah, so we'll leave it at that.
He
Next
tried to do it
question,
again, and this isn't it. He's not doing that by accident. Like, oh, oops, I forgot.
No, look. He's got the bitter beer face guy going right there. Like he knows exactly.
He knows what he's trying to do, and he knows he's not. So far he hasn't been able to get away with it, but he will keep trying.
Based on your training experience, what if any conclusions or what if any opinions that you have in regard to the swelling around the eyes?
Objection.
Yeah, I'll see you at sidebar here.
Right. So now she's going to tell Lolly, knock it the F off. I see what you're doing here.
Yes.
So, Sergeant Buhkinek, with reference to your prior death investigations, have you had occasion?
So now she must have told him, I'll give you a little more leeway if you lay a little more foundation. So he's going in and talking more about the types of things he has seen in his career and what he's been privy to in that regard.
To make observations of bodies that there was a later determination of some sort of subdural hemorrhage?
Yes.
I'll allow that. Have you made those observations? Have you been part of those investigations?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
And what you observed in regard to Mr. O'Keefe, was that consistent or inconsistent with what you had observed on those prior investigations?
Objection.
That I'll allow.
It was consistent.
Now, in addition to the injuries that you observed to Mr. O'Keefe's face, what if any injuries did you observe to his extremities?
His extremities produced abrasions to his upper forearm and lower bicep area on his right arm.
And just as you use that term, I'm not asking for any sort of medical definition, but as far as you use that term abrasions, what do you understand that term?
The echo's killing me.
I understand that term to be a injury sustained through blood force trauma, friction to the epidermis of the skin.
Can you still hear it?
Crushing of the
You have to
vascular system
mute
occurs.
your.
That produces that type of
You can't hear. You got to take your headphones off.
sign on the
Can
skin.
you hear it right now,
From
you
your
guys?
observation of the injuries
We
to
can
Mr.
all
O'Keefe's
hear it, but
arm,
we can
which
hear
arm
the
was it again?
echo. I
It
can
was his
hear
right
the
arm.
echo.
And as far as
Somebody
your
else.
observation of those injuries to his right arm, what if any, as far as the consistency of those injuries, what if anything did you know to observe in reference to those?
Consistency with what? With the,
Let me rephrase this.
Yeah.
How were the abrasions that you're describing positioned in relation to each other?
Each abrasion appeared to me to be linear and concentrated in a specific location on the arm. It didn't go any further north of a point and did not go any further south of a point. So it was concentrated in the elbow, a few inches below the elbow, a few inches above the elbow on the right arm.
Now, while you
You
were
fixed
at
it, Bay. You fixed it.
Good Samaritan Hospital, did you endeavor to speak with Ms. Reed?
We did attempt to, yes.
And was she present at the hospital at that time?
No, she was not.
And at some point subsequent to that, did you receive, or what, if any, information did you receive as to her whereabouts?
We were made aware that she was located at 345 Country Hill Drive in Dayton at her parents' home.
All right, pause
And
it. Kill it.
Yep.
I
Where
gotta
did you go
go.
from the Good Samaritan Hospital once you left them?
All right, so tomorrow, first of all, thank you all for coming. We'll get better at this. I'll make sure that Allie's got the right setup down there. There was one thing that she had to do to get the sound of the video through. I'll make sure I get
And
that.
we
set
wanted
up
to
for
save
tomorrow.
this witness's full analysis for once he
The
gets-
whole thing. We want to be able to do we want to be able to do the direct and the cross all in one shot. It'll be way better.
But I'm going to answer whatever questions we have that people made over here while you go then.
Okay. And just so you guys know, make sure we're on my channel tomorrow. We're on our channel. We're not at Jay's. So make sure you're sharing, liking, subscribing. And if you dig it, become a member. We love having everybody go. Come and check us out over at STS starting. Allie will, I'm sure, wrap in the next few minutes. And come hang with us. And we love you guys. Thank you so much. And I will
Can you
see
create
you.
one of those things where when I kill the thingy, it ports over? Well, they'll find you. STS.
Yeah, you guys, Surviving the Survivor. Put the link in.
Survivor.
Love you guys. Thank you, mods. Love you, babe.
Love you, babe. So thanks, Charlie and Holly Berry. And Jennifer, thank you. Looks like we met you at Crime Con. It was a pleasure meeting you as well. It was very nice to hear from everybody and to meet everybody in person. We got Jersey Jen. Let's raise the roof for us. Thank you. Thank you for that $5. I appreciate it. And then we've got Laura. Good points are being made on both sides, in my opinion. This case will always have reasonable doubt. And that's sort of what the question is. And I don't know if mods, if you've got any other member questions that you think I should are out here that I could address. But I mean, I think that's kind of the point. It's like, even when the state makes points and makes some headway, that there's still reasonable doubt, although that reasonable doubt, when you get to the end, to the manslaughter charge, that reasonable doubt relies exclusively on believing that all these pieces of plastic were planted. And one thing I do want to mention, and we'll circle back to it next time we're doing an analysis, because I'm sure I'm assuming going to come up again. And we get to it with this witness. So to come is that Sally Port. And, pre-trial, they were talking about all this missing time from the Sally Port. And I was looking at the time stamp on the Sally Port and the time stamp on the arrival. I wasn't seeing that missing time. So that'll be something that we're going to get into as we get into this trooper's testimony on next time. And thank you guys all for coming, and definitely go check out Surviving the Survivor. I'm sure it will be worth it. You guys will really enjoy it. And thanks for coming. Catch you next time. Let's see if I know how to do this outro thing. Dizzy, do you know how to? Do I have to? Oh, wait, I think I do know. Wait. I don't. So no outro today. Catch you guys next time. Bye.